Beauty Wellness. I've been wanting to do a wellness kind of series for Weird for Beauty for a long time now, and this seems like the right moment. I've been working on myself a lot this year in 2020, and I just wanted to bring you as many tips and tricks that might help your life. I've had kind of a long journey with this topic, anxiety, and 40 million Americans suffer with some form of anxiety. That's 18% of the population. That's according to the Anxiety and Depression Society of America. So with that, I want to tell you a little bit about the kinds of anxiety I deal with and work on overcoming and sometimes try to use to my advantage, and how I deal with them. I'd love to hear your stories in the comments on Instagram or YouTube, wherever you're watching this. So there are a few types of anxiety. There are generalized anxiety disorders, social anxiety, specific phobias like an extreme phobia of televisions or mice, panic disorder, other conditions where anxiety is present, obsessive compulsive disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Sometimes it's hard to know what type of anxiety I've dealt with in my life or like what I have, but I can tell you for sure that I have extreme anxiety when I fly on airplanes. I have extreme anxiety sometimes when I'm going to a party or to hang out with friends, but like not every time. And then generalized anxiety is the worst because sometimes like I just feel really anxious, but I don't know why. And sometimes it can make you feel depressed, or it can accompany depression already. And sometimes like it just makes you want to stay in and not do anything, even though I'm pretty extroverted. It's one of those things where sometimes like things will loop in my head over and over again, or like thoughts will be racing throughout the day or evening, and it's hard to fall asleep, and just many things race. Sorry about the sirens out there. And then like situational for sure, like sometimes with my job I just have things race over and over, like an embarrassing moment for days, it will just replay in my head, and I have to figure out how to ease that down and make it stop and move forward. Sometimes you can learn from things and you can learn from your anxiety. I've had a few where like I had this job before years ago that wasn't going well, and I kept getting nightmares, but I didn't know why I was getting nightmares. They weren't about work. Then when I left that job, the nightmares stopped, and I realized afterward, like, oh, I was really stressed out with that job, and my anxiety was totally like relieved a lot as well. It wasn't eliminated, but a lot of it was gone, and I realized then that a lot of my like feelings of general anxiety were actually because of the stress at work, but I wasn't able to make that connection at the time. Now that I'm older, I've grown, and I'm able to sometimes identify like the situations that need worked on and like where my anxiety is coming from. Later on, my dad went to jail, and he was in jail for 4 years, and I used to have so many nightmares during that 4 years at night, like real actual sleeping nightmares. And when my dad was released from jail that very week, nightmares were gone. And the nightmares, again, they were not exactly about my dad in jail, but the way my brain was dealing with the anxiety of it and the stress of it was to have these nightmares. So it was really kind of interesting the way everybody's body and mind handle situations and stress and anxiety in different ways. I will sometimes get like tense muscles in my neck. That's one way I handle stress sometimes, or like hold on to it there. So I want to talk to you about a few ways that I deal with my anxiety. Number one is I talk to myself, which sounds crazy, but when I'm home alone and I feel anxiety, I will talk to myself. I will talk to myself. I'll give myself a pep talk. I'll pretend I'm above myself, or like watching myself as a movie, and give myself advice from up above. And you can say it out loud. You can talk to yourself out loud when you're, I guess, anywhere, maybe not in public, but it really actually helps to talk through things with yourself. And I know it sounds crazy, but just try it. The other thing I've been trying to practice more and more this year is called the 5-second rule. And I was watching a video of this woman who really preaches the 5-second rule. I'll link it down below. And basically, if you're laying in bed and you're like, like today I really need to do the laundry, instead of procrastinating and like ruminating over the thing, count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just take action and force yourself to do it. In the morning, if you really want to get out of bed earlier, count down. Don't hit the snooze button. Do the countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and get out of bed. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, what that does while you're counting down, and you can count down out loud as well, what that does is it breaks through the mental clutter and the racing thoughts. So if you're experiencing a lot of anxiety, you shift your mind to focus on the counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and take the action. You break through the thoughts that are like, well, I can sleep in a little longer. Well, maybe I don't have to go to the party. I can let my anxiety take control. Or whatever those things are, you can break through them with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's similar to a visualization that I often use when I'm going to a party and I want to say hi to like a cute boy, or I'm going to give a speech, there's something holding me back. I will often tell people who have that kind of social anxiety that it's a wall, and there's like a brick wall there, and you have to punch through it, like break through that wall, because then once you do say hi to the person, 99% of the time, it's totally okay and you're glad you actually did it, but you get so nervous, and for some people it's really, really debilitating, that kind of social anxiety going to a party. But I think there's definitely benefit in being introverted, staying at home, taking care of yourself at home, but it's good to practice and use the exercise, use the muscle that you have, and try to break through that wall and overcome your challenges. So things that make you really anxious, try to push through and overcome. I've certainly been flying a lot more on airplanes, and I found all sorts of ways to help with that, which I'll talk a little bit about. The other thing you can try to do is when you're really nervous about something like going to a party, you can tell yourself, I'm excited. This is excitement. Try to tell yourself this isn't nervous, this isn't anxiety, it's excitement. And just tell yourself, I'm excited to go to the party. What I'm feeling is excitement. Sometimes, not always, that will help you get through the anxiety. Obviously, the other thing that I have been doing for many years, ever since I was a little kid, and I grew up in the mountains, deep in the woods, and I used to go on hikes in nature. Just being in nature is really soothing to your soul, and my anxiety melts away when I'm on a hike or surrounded by trees or the ocean or a lake. And I also enjoy meditating. So when I was little, I would go for a hike in the woods and I would meditate by the stream, and I would listen to all the levels of sound that the stream was making over the rocks. There's lots of little bubbles and gurgles of the water, and the more I would relax and listen, the more depth I could hear of the sound. And I still remember that, and when I meditate now, I'll think back on those times and how soothing that was to my spirit. So meditation is really important, and I use apps like Calm. 10% Happier is a great app. I've also gone to meditation classes here in San Francisco, different breath work and sound meditation, guided visual meditations. There's all sorts of stuff out there on YouTube for you. I really, really recommend meditating. It makes you healthier in your mind, your body, your spirit, easier to focus at work. All the things in your life start to come together so much better when you engage in a meditation practice. Medication, I have tried a few things. I went into a K-hole last year, which is ketamine, which I tried recreationally. I am not recommending that you do this. There are places you can go now to have ketamine injected to help with depression and anxiety, especially in Los Angeles. There's a few ketamine clinics. But what happened for me after I took ketamine recreationally was I had, first of all, a very spiritual, deep experience on it, and then second of all, for 11 straight days, my anxiety was completely erased. I was able to focus at work. I was able to read a book, which is so difficult for me with racing thoughts, and I just felt like a more pure version of myself for 11 days. So I started doing all this research about ketamine and found out there's a lot of science behind it, and so I'm really looking forward to getting into some sort of medical program where I try ketamine on a regular basis, but in a medical setting. I have stopped doing it recreationally. I've only tried it a couple times recreationally. It's kind of a popular club drug in the gay community, to be honest. And I tried it, and because the effect for me was so spiritual and medicinal, I decided that for me, that's something I want to put into a different category and not use recreationally so much, and use that as a really controlled tool. And so I'm hoping to see a doctor soon to like get that ball rolling. I've already talked to my regular physician about it, and I just have to take a few more steps. The other thing I've tried is Xanax, and that's something that I don't take every day. I really try to use the tools of like good nutrition and meditation, and for sure exercise helps. Running, jogging, taking a vigorous hike definitely helps ease my anxiety. But every now and then, if it's just really, really bad and I can't sleep, I'll take a little bit of Xanax. Or definitely before I fly on an airplane, Xanax is the only thing that helps me. Like, before I discovered Xanax, and I got it prescribed by my doctor, by the way, before I discovered that, when I would fly on an airplane, at the end of the flight, it would feel like I ran a marathon. Like, it was so bad, you guys. So it's really the only thing that helps me get through a flight. The other thing is just like focusing on doing something that you love. So when you're having anxiety or whatever, just switch your focus to doing something that you love. Sing some karaoke, dance. I love to dance every day at home, out, wherever. Also having a pet, having my dog, like when I'm really feeling anxiety, I hold on to my dog, and like her pure love and like affection and cuddling really, really helps me get through anxiety for sure. The other weird thing I do for like social anxiety and parties is I arrive early, which is kind of weird. I know for some people arriving late helps their anxiety, but for me, like getting to the party or the event a bit early and kind of like, all right, I'm gonna be okay here, and just like setting the scene, like getting comfortable as people come in, saying hi to them one at a time so you don't show up and it's like, whoa, so that really helps me. And I'm a very social person, so it's weird that I also have the anxiety part to it. I love people, but showing up early has really helped me. And sometimes, like if it's a big party that my friend is throwing, I'll call and say like, hey, I need to come early because I have bad anxiety, and it helps me like ease into the party, because it's kind of rude to show up too early, so I try to give my friends a heads up. But the other thing that I like to do is set a morning routine the night before, kind of plan out your morning routine, and really stick to that morning routine each morning, because nothing causes me anxiety more than feeling rushed. I hate feeling rushed in any situation. It's my least favorite thing. Like, oh my god, we have to rush. That's when I forget things. It's when I get like super anxious and like annoyed, and it's just bad. If I am rushed and I am in a hurry, I do try to stay present, or again, try that looking down on my life as a movie trick. And it helps to have humor and just laugh at those situations that might cause you anxiety or be a nightmare in the moment. If you can try to flip something in your brain to have humor about it, it really helps. And that flip too, like I'm remembering now, like the looping that I would often go through. Like sometimes my anxiety when it's really bad, like I'll just be walking down the street and I'll have like negative daydreams like running through my head. Does anyone have that? I call it looping. There's another medical word for it, but it's like, oh, I'm walking to dinner and like, what if I like tripped and fell and got hit by a car, and then I went to the ER and then they called my mom. Like crazy like looping stories happen in my head, and it's so wild. But now I've gotten a lot better with that after implementing all these tips and the meditation. And now when I start looping, I say, Mark, you're looping. Don't loop. Like, focus on your breath. Focus on the trees. Look around you. You tell yourself to flip out of it and identify what you're doing. Again, from above, you're like, you're looping. You need to stop that. Stop it now and like get through it. And once I identified that I was looping and that this was like a thing that other people do too, it really helped. Like just identifying the thing sometimes is enough to help you recognize it in the future and cut through it and make it stop. So obviously I'm not a doctor. You should talk to your doctor if you're suffering with really bad anxiety, if it's holding you back in life. You can be set free. You can use your anxiety sometimes to your advantage to make art that is inspired by it. You can use your anxiety to fuel some of your vigor in life. And so don't beat yourself up over it. Love yourself. Love your anxiety. Love your whole self and your whole body. And I hope that this was helpful to you. If you're new here at Weird for Beauty, please hit subscribe, hit the little bell, follow on all the social media channels, and thanks for joining me for this first episode of Weird for Beauty Wellness.